Hello and welcome to class tonight. Today we're going to be talking about plot structure in The Giver by Lewis Lowry. So first off, for a little bit of review, last time in class we talked a little bit about, we introduced The Giver and went over some of the major themes of this novel. We discussed the themes of community, family, and emotions, such as the memories that Jonas receives, and their importance in understanding a novel such as The Giver. Today we'll be learning about plot and how it is important when telling a story. I hope that as you learn about this will help you with your group projects. First off, a few definitions. Plot is a literary element that describes the structure of a story. You can think of this as a blueprint of the story or the backbone of the story. It shows a casual arrangement of events within the story. Each story has a conflict that is central to the actions taking place. This creates interest and drive for the characters. The first definition is that of exposition. This is the start of the story, or the way things are before the action starts. The setting is set up here. Next is the rising action. This is a series of conflicts and crises in the story that lead to the climax. This, for example, in many Disney movies is the middle song that's in there, such as in The Lion King, Hakuna Matata, where Simba grows up. With Timon and Pumbaa, this is part of the rising action as it's before the climax, but it helps in his growth and development. The climax is the turning point or the most intense moment. This can be either emotionally or physically. As well as in The Lion King, for example, this is when Simba decides that he needs to go back to Pride Rock. It's a turning point in this story. The falling action is all of the events that follow the climax. These are events that help drive to a resolution. Events such as, in The Lion King as an example, this is him fighting Scar and regaining his throne. The resolution is the conclusion or the tying together of all the threads. So this diagram here is something that we will be using throughout class, that you may be able to use it not only on The Giver, but you can use it within your own story. I hope that you can use this diagram in your own stories because it will create a structure for your story, and it may even make it a little bit easier to know what you need to do. Now, going on to discuss a little bit about The Giver, we're going to diagram the plot of The Giver. First of all, this conflict, it's important to remember that the conflict is what drives the action in a story. And the conflict that Jonas fights is he fights against the standards and norms that society has set in order to keep the community peaceful. He is an individual fighting against the community. The story begins when Jonas is volunteering at different jobs and he's beginning to have these stirrings, these emotional outbursts, which begin with dreams. This is kind of setting up the story. It's setting up this community where we're beginning to understand what is happening at this moment in time. One of the inciting incidents that begins all of this action is when Jonas is chosen as receiver of memories. Throughout this part of the novel, he is experiencing new emotions. He's learning and he's growing into the person that he needs to be when that climax, that turning point hits. Another major event that happens during this is that his family comes to care for Gabriel, this baby. He forms a bond with this baby, and this brings us to the climax of the story. In the climax of the story, Jonas finds out that release is actually death. Having received memories of death and having learned of Rosemary's release, he is horrified by this knowledge, and he makes a plan to save Gabriel. Gabriel, as a baby, has had a hard time sleeping, and he isn't developing as other newborn babies are, and so the community has made the decision to release him. Other members of the community believe that release is simply going outside of the community and that it's a peaceful moment that old people do and babies do as well, but that's also reserved in more a shameful manner for criminals and those who go against what the community teaches. So when Jonas finds out that this release is death and he understands it because of the memories that he's received, this is his turning point in this story. This is something that drives him to action more than anything else, to make a big change. The falling action is that the giver helps Jonas escape from their community, and they plan to release all the emotions to the community. They do this by having a bike that he can leave on and distracting them so he can leave within the night with Gabriel. The resolution is that Jonas finds that sled at the top of the hill, and he goes down and he's remembering all those emotions that he felt in that first emotion that the giver had given to him. And at this, he takes Gabriel into this warm-looking house, and we're left there with kind of this unresolved conclusion, but that we're hoping helps us know that there's hope, that Jonas has found somewhere else to go. So, for tonight, now that you have a basic understanding of plot, it is your turn to practice this. So using your favorite book or movie, you're going to diagram the plot of the story, just as I diagrammed the plot of The Giver. Make sure to identify examples of exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution, and the conflict. Bring a paper with your diagram to class next time, and we will discuss it there. As well, we will continue to work on the projects that we have in class, so please come with questions that you need answered. We're going to be focusing on the plot of your stories and the plot of your videos in class, so please come prepared, and I can't wait to see you all next time.